Training at Laragonon Academy was no joke, bro. Even the youngest kids there had to do these insane drills, where they held heavy weights and tried to breathe the right way without passing out. Most of them looked like they were dying already, arms shaking and faces red. A few tough ones hung on, but one boy was just built different. Our hero didn't just carry the normal weights, he went all out and stacked giant boulders on top. Even the trainer looked like he had seen a ghost, watching the poor guy crush that challenge like it was nothing. But here's what nobody knew. This kid was actually the strongest dude from the past, Reborn. He was the original founder of the Dragon family, bro. In his last life, he had spent his entire life pursuing the peak of martial arts, but the longer he trained, the more he realized that the summit was something he might never reach. His body was growing older, and the limits of his strength became clearer with each passing day. Unwilling to accept that fate, he held on to an ancient legend. It was said that within a hidden sanctuary, guarded by a divine dragon, there existed a golden fruit known as the Fruit of Immortality, a treasure that could grant eternal life to whoever consumed it. Determined to obtain it, he entered the sanctuary and faced its guardian. He fought the divine dragon with everything he had. Though his body was covered in wounds and blood, he endured until he finally succeeded in defeating it. Now, staggering forward, he made his way toward the tree. With trembling hands, he plucked the fruit and ate it. He believed that, with this fruit, he could still reach the peak of martial arts, and thought he was set for life. His name was Gilfaz Eldragon, the man hailed as the strongest in the world. But nah, fate had other plans. 10 years later, he ended up on his deathbed, thinking that legend was actually just a load of crap. At the end of his life, he was accompanied by his children and grandchildren. His eldest son, Gilliam, sadly remarked that the estate would be so empty without him and his mother. He replied that such sentimentality was senseless. Then he died, but that wasn't the end at all. Our hero woke up again. But this time, he was a tiny baby. He was freaking out, man. He looked around and saw that the wall was made of paper. His body felt so light. He saw his hand and then realized that he was a real baby. He starts to process the reality. Just then, he concludes that maybe this is how the miracle fruit works. So, the fruit's power wasn't immortality, but reincarnation. He was so happy to have this opportunity. It means now he can finally reach the peak of martial arts. Then he looked around him. He saw a bunch of other babies in the same building, so he figured out he must have been reborn into the Eldragon family again. Yet, he is still questioning why there are so many babies gathered here. Out of nowhere, a bunch of maids rolled in with a trolley carrying some weird, red liquid. One of them was a goblin, which set off all kinds of alarms in our hero's head. The maids went straight to the goblin, forced him to drink the red stuff, and dude, the goblin just exploded in a mess of pain and blood. It looked like a straight-up magic test. The maids seemed happy and started feeding everyone else the same red liquid, just watered down a bit. Our MC had no clue what was happening. When his turn came, he realized this was not milk. This was some super powerful magic drink. It was actually an ancient dragon's blood, and they were making all the babies drink it. Instinct told him to spit it out, especially after seeing what happened to the goblin. But he forgot that he is a baby. He can't do much. The other babies were spitting it out too, trying not to blow up. But our boy paused and thought, what if he could handle it? This was pure power, and maybe he could use it to reach a level even higher than before. And again, who knows, he can reach the true peak of martial arts by drinking it. Yeah, our MC is truly ambitious with that desire, bro. So, instead of spitting it out, he chugged down every drop and felt the flow of energy getting stronger in his blood, basically telling himself that they should never have underestimated Gil Ruidorus. Then, he took in all the ancient dragon's magic, going for power he could only dream of last time. The maids were pretty surprised to see one baby just chill after drinking it. But hey, it was a win for them, so they didn't say a word. The other babies survived, but you could tell that moment wasn't normal. Bro, as soon as he finished, he got hit with the biggest wave of sleep ever. Fast forward 7 years. The kid who was once Gilfaz got a new name, Zeke Eldragon. He trained like a maniac and could feel his body turning into something epic. All thanks to that dragon blood. Everyone had some kind of life power inside. But the ancient dragon blood from when he was a baby gave him a serious boost. Anybody who could keep a little of that magic juice got way stronger than normal humans. But our hero, guided by the dragons themselves, took in all of it. His transformation was so wild, even he didn't get how real it was. By the rules, he should have 4 stars inside him by now. In this world, a star meant a big chunk of power floating in your body, and the more you had, the stronger you got. But it got harder and harder to make more stars. Our MC, in his previous life as Gilfaz Eldragon, had reached the unprecedented rank of 10 stars, the only one in the world to ever do so. 7 years had passed since his rebirth. His mom had already died, and his dad never even showed his face. He was wondering, what kind of parent is that? Waking up in a world 1,000 years in the future was crazy enough, But what annoyed him even more was how rough things had gotten. Now, only the strong survived, and the weak? Forget about it. Just look at the dragon's trial. Only the babies that lived through drinking that magic blood could train to be Eldragon warriors. Through all those years, nothing stopped our protagonist. He wanted to know about his environment or the system, but the maids weren't talking, and every time he asked why he can't get combat training, Ji just said she's not at liberty to answer that. Okay, he can understand that now. Building up his body matters more than combat training. But at least he hopes she can give him some information about the other children or the main family. But her answer is still the same. It wasn't just that she didn't know. It looked like she wasn't allowed to say anything. Anyway, the maid he dealt with was a 3-star fighter, which was enough for basic training, but not much else. Even after 7 years living with them, just talking to her was exhausting. He felt sick, so he asked, is he being mistreated here? But the maid just said that they have been ordered only to tend to his personal needs. That's all. He said to her that he's heading to the forest, but he was even more annoyed because he did nothing after hearing her decision to go to the forest. So, our boy took it into his own hands. He hit the forest and started eating poisonous herbs just for training. Yeah, that's how nuts he was. While out there, he suddenly picked up on something. An angry boar showed up, with this weird black smoke swirling around it. That kind of thing definitely didn't exist 1,000 years ago. Of course, they fought. Zeke smashed the boar with a punch so strong that even he was surprised. He only had 1 star, but the real trick was how strong that star was. Quality over quantity, right? He grabbed the boar and said that he was getting tired of being left alone like this, and thought maybe he should go on a journey. And if he goes anywhere, it'll be the sea. What he didn't know was that someone had been watching the whole time. A strange man hid in the shadows, saw how Zeke handled the boar, and knew this kid was something else. And top of that, he had noticed the guy, too. The strange man knows that our boy's mother died young, and his father had no interest in him. So, there's no way Zeke could receive proper education. But, as the top kid of the family, he wasn't allowed to just leave on his own. He was always being watched even though he's the master's bloodline. The stranger, though he definitely wanted to know more about this not-so-normal child. Suddenly, he who was all sitting behind the tree suddenly disappeared in an instant. Now, our boy was ready for the journey when he overheard a bunch of big, tough warriors talking in a room. He got curious and walked in, asking what was up. They had the Eldragon emblem too. Then they told him they were here to get Zeke, and he would need to take some kind of test. Bro, our hero was not happy about that. He thought maybe he was going back to the main family house or something. But nope, they dragged him off to this place called the Dragon's Nest. Turns out, this was the Eldragon family's super exclusive academy for teaching their own kind. Every kid in the family had to go there at age 7, and today was the day for the entry test. The worst part? Nobody had taught our boy anything to prepare. The poor guy just held his head and thought, well, great. He guess he has to do this no matter what. He looked so tired that he hid his face over his hand. After that, a small kid came over to talk to him. This kid's name was Langus, and he was from Old Scale Village. At first, he seemed scared, asking maybe he was in trouble. Then our MC turned around, and that's when Langus was shocked, because he thinks our boy is female. But our boy was little shocked when this guy looked timid, but he's got some nerve. His body has an aura. Then, the small kid introduced himself. Our boy introduced himself back, trying not to seem too stressed about the crazy test coming up. He even told him that he had no clue what the test would be, which kind of freaked him out. Hearing that, Langus said that our boy is such a man with zero backup, which makes our boy more freaked out. He starts to worry because isn't it too reckless to not know anything about the exam? Is he going to be okay? But they didn't get time to relax. Suddenly, this guy named Retin, also from Old Scale Village, started yelling at Langus, the blue-haired boy in front of everyone. He called him a runt, and that made our boy wondering. Then he said that Langus should have just stayed home, and that someone like him would never get into the academy, since his dad was only a mock dragon. In the Eldragon family, everyone had a rank. Rookies, soldiers, captains, elders, and way down at the bottom, mock dragons, people who never made it into the dragon's nest. They called those guys fakes, which was rough. But Langus wasn't about to give up. He wanted to change that label for his family. Meanwhile, our boy was not about to let the bullies go unchecked. He said that at least Langus deserved a shot, which only made the bullies angrier. They started talking trash about our blue-haired boy. But Zeke stood his ground, still, backing up his new friend. Right then, the examiner, a real adult dragon, announced that the test was starting. Everyone had to register, grab a number tag, and head to the second gate to begin the discipline test. The bad boy stopped the argument, but he swore he would not forget Zeke's face. Zeke told him to not need to get angry about it. Because the youth of today are so short-tempered, the blue-haired boy was a little shocked to see him say something mature. Anyway, he was still worried, quietly suggesting that Zeke should maybe quit if he really wasn't ready, or didn't think he could do it. But our hero wasn't scared. even if he had no clue what the test was about. The first exam was honestly kind of wild. All they had to do was scratch a rock. If you could scratch it, you passed. You could use a weapon they gave you or just go barehanded if you wanted. Everyone got 3 tries. Zeke thought this was way too easy, remembering how they performed an insane ritual, like the dragon's trial, when they were babies, and said so. But Langus just looked at him like he was insane. He thought the test would be terrifying. The test started, and the blue-haired boy went into full panic mode, while our MC just sat back, chill as ever. The test stone could heal itself almost right away. So, if you only did a little damage, it would just fix itself. Also, if you just hit it with brute force, the stone would bounce the attack back at you, only way harder. Langus explained that to actually scratch the thing, you had to use your ether source power the right way. So, this test was really about controlling your power, not just smashing stuff. Most kids looked like they might actually pass, even the bullies. There were a bunch of students who kept failing and getting kicked out. When it was Zeke's turn, and just as always, Langus got so worried and suggested him to just tack a withdraw, but our boy said there is no need for him to worry. When the examiner asked what weapons he wanted to use, our boy said he didn't want any weapon. Everyone acted like he was crazy for trying with his bare hands. They even warned him, but he just said he was sure. People around him started whispering, saying he was going to fail, and our blue-haired boy looked super worried for him. Our MC took a good look at the stone and realized it had to be super old, maybe over 1,000 years. He had never seen a mineral like that before. Then, cool as ever, he raised his fist. Langus started screaming and wanted to stop him, but our boy already channeled his full power and unleashed his Dragon Slayer combat technique right into the rock. Bro, the regeneration stone just broke under his punch. The whole crowd went silent. They did not see that coming. The blue-haired boy was over the moon, so happy and shocked. The examiner just stared at him, thinking maybe our boy was some secret child of a super powerful family, because only a warrior with 4 or 5 stars could do something like that. And he also recognizes he has seen that kind of move he used. But instead of being proud, our hero thinks these techniques are a little too advanced for him now. His fists are full of scars and blood, and his right sleeve was also damaged, which makes him conclude that his training isn't enough. For being such a beast, Zeke got handed a green potion. He had no clue what it was for. Later, Langus told him it was a normal healing potion, but our boy wondered if it was actually an elixir, one of those legendary potions made from rare herbs and magic beast stuff that could heal wounds and boost your power big time. He thought it was crazy how rare those potions were, basically impossible to get, and the ones from House Dragon were way better than anything from a regular shop. Not gonna lie, our MC was shocked, and the blue-haired boy kept hyping him up. The bullies also managed to pass, though, so the drama wasn't over. Then, it was Langus's turn. He tried to scratch the rock using a sword, but it didn't even make a mark. It was his last chance. And the bullies started calling him a half-dragon and making fun of him again. Zeke told him to switch to a spear, since the sword clearly wasn't working. The blue-haired boy was nervous. He'd never used a spear before and didn't know how. The crowd kept laughing at him, saying he was too weak and would never make it. But our boy didn't let his new friend give up. He told Langus to just thrust the spear straight, not to overthink it. Sure, it sounded almost impossible for a newbie to thrust hard enough with a spear to scratch that magic stone. Our hero and Langus had just met, but because Zeke really believed in him, Langus decided to believe in himself too. But Zeke said he shouldn't back down before even trying. It is true that his father wasn't allowed Intai, the dragon's nest. They mocked him, calling him pseudo-dragon. But even so, his father never gave in, and he raised Langus, and now he will prove that he's not fake. He didn't waste any time. He grabbed that spear, thrust it straight into the magic stone, and bam! It felt so natural, like the spear was always meant to be in his hands. Everyone watched as not only did he scratch the stone, dude actually stabbed it all the way through. No one was expecting that, especially not Langus. Zeke went wild, cheering like their team just won a championship. The blue-haired boy was so happy he started crying. And even the cocky bullies couldn't hide their stress. Guess who was feeling awesome now? Yeah, our boy's new friend. With the test over, it was time for the entrance ceremony. Zeke wondered out loud if that was really the only test, but Langus said there might be more exam after this. The big boss of the Eldragon family came in to give a speech. Our boy noticed the guy looked super gloomy, and, as usual, the blue-haired boy had to remind him to stop talking dirty about him before he got them both in trouble. Now, our MC took a look around at the Eldragon family's best fighters. There were a bunch of 6 stars, which was pretty decent, but the real deal was Balza Eldragon, the family head. This guy was on an 8-star level, which, back in the day, only like a dozen people in the world ever managed. Zeke was not a fan, and honestly, to think that he is his father, you could feel the hate in the air every time he looked at his dad. Then Lord Balza started talking about how everyone should become the flesh and blood of Eldragon. His aura was so strong, most students could barely breathe. It felt like the whole place was about to collapse from the pressure, and our hero realized there was no way he could stand this guy. Just when things were getting out of hand, an old dragon stepped in, praising Lord Balza's words and saying it was all just about the way he spoke. Suddenly, everyone could breathe again and felt a little better. Our boy doesn't know what's going on, but the change of the atmosphere is a relief. After that, one of the warriors came out and announced that it was time for dorm assignments. Anyone whose name was called needed to go right away. Zeke was curious if he and his new friend would end up together, but Langus quickly explained there were 4 dorms: East, West, North, and South. Only students who passed could go inside. Our boy got assigned to the East dorm. Inside the dorm, our poor guy wandered around totally lost until he finally found his room. He realized that things really have changed after 1,000 years. He went in and tried to sound cool with a warm hello, but surprise, Langus was his new roommate. Both of them looked super happy about it and started thinking that they indeed have a connection to each other. Zeke didn't have any plans for the rest of the day, but the blue-haired guy warned him that training started tomorrow. Since our MC never paid attention to the announcements, Langus gave him a little scolding. Honestly, he had been planning to dip out of this boring place and go exploring. But with all the crazy stuff, the magic rock, the healing potion, and everything else, he figured maybe he'd stick around the Eldragon house a little longer. A month went by, just like that. Now, there was a big training session going on to teach the Dragon's Breath technique, made by House Eldragon's 15th head. Some kids, like Lady Laika, already had this move down and looked pretty strong, maybe around a 2nd star. Then there was Zeke, who showed up with 0 teaching, but still made all the trainers question if he was secretly the head's real successor. See, the Dragon's Breath technique was just a weaker version of what our MC used to know, the Dragon King's Breath. It was a way to pull magical power ether from the air and run it through your body, helping you get stronger. How well they work depends on the user's skill and creativity. Each noble house had their own style, and they guarded these secrets like gold. But here's the thing. If this technique only worked when standing still, it was useless for our boy. Back in his old life, he could use his power on the move, which was way better. The Dragon King's Breath was so tough, only a few could learn it. But the guy actually simplified it for his family before he died. He never imagined it would survive and change, even after he came back in a new life. And maybe lots of other martial arts changed over time too? Later at dinner, Zeke asked Langus because he looked tired and told him to hurry up and eat so he could grow stronger. Since, right now, he was still too weak and needed to catch up, while our boy was zoning out, thinking about how some kids were already so good. Lady Laika came over and started talking to him. She told him he was pretty amazing earlier, which made the blue-haired guy nearly choke when our boy asked her name, since she was the head's daughter. Zeke couldn't care less and casually said he was also the head's son, acting like it was no big deal. He answered her questions without a care, while still telling his buddy to focus on his food. Hearing that, Laika got hyped and tried to recruit our boy as her subordinate, since he was an illegitimate child and needed allies. She wanted him to help her become the next head of the family and promised big rewards, but our MC just shot her down, not even interested when she tried to bribe him with rare potions. Here's the wild part. This blonde girl was strong enough to project her power outside her body. Insane for her age. But our boy basically said he didn't care about being the head, but she didn't hear him and was still asking a lot of questions about why he didn't want to join her. Suddenly, our boy stopped eating and thrust his knife into the table. He was furious and said he wasn't going to listen to anyone weaker than him. She was shocked, knowing Zeke now just intimidated her. Seeing the situation getting hotter, Langus panicked and told them to calm down. But suddenly, she called out Zeke for being the strongest and challenged him to a fight. Now, everyone was running to the training ground to see what would happen. Our boy realized things were getting serious. Langus whispered that that blonde girl wasn't just the family head's daughter. She also had backing from Typhona of Blood, one of the 4 great houses. At just 7, she already mastered every form of her house's fighting style. Zeke had no idea about all that, but honestly, not knowing made him even more pumped. Even though the blue-haired boy kept saying there was no way he could beat her, both fighters looked more than ready to throw down. Things were about to get crazy, bro. Now, our hero looked at Lady Laika and asked why she was pushing for a fight so badly. She told him it was simple. She wanted to become the next head of the family. And to do that, she had to beat him now and make him serve under her. He just stared at her, totally lost about all this family drama. She sighed and asked if it was because he was illegitimate, then started explaining. She said there were 5 heirs, including herself, all fighting for the top spot. Everyone had blood from one of the 4 great Eldragon houses, meaning, here in the Dragon's Nest, they are all clashing for the pride of their bloodlines. And to stand against her brother, she needs more allies. In any case, as a candidate, she must secure her place. So, if she wanted to win, she needed to take him down first. Without waiting for any more chit-chat, she swung her massive sword like it was a toy. But, our MC? He just dodged her attack with zero effort. The crowd could see right away that this is what it meant to be the child of the head. Leica's strikes kept coming, each one faster than the last, and she looked seriously dangerous. But Zeke just kept moving, like it was nothing. Langus was out there looking shocked, probably wondering how anyone could be that chill during a fight. Now, Zeke, being the absolute madman he is, actually praised her fighting skills because she kept mixing up her moves and surprising him. But she wasn't there for compliments. She told him to stop talking and start throwing some real punches. So, he did exactly that. Our hero threw a punch, and down she went. She couldn't believe she hadn't landed even one hit on him. Our boy said she really was way faster than most 1-stars he'd seen, but at the end of the day, she was still just a 1-star. He explained how he watched her breathing, checked the way her muscles twitched, and even read her eyes to figure out where she'd move next. A total pro move, honestly. He said that the rest was just experience. But Leica wasn't the type to quit. She rushed him again, but our MC slammed her back. He was actually impressed though, because she somehow gathered real source power at her core to survive that hit. But, again, our boy punched a hit that she couldn't anticipate. The hit was so full that it bounced deep into the wall. Everyone was just shocked, thinking Zeke could actually defeat her. But our boy knew it was not finished yet, and told Langus to step back. Right then, things got wild. Her aura changed. Dude, she hit 2-star level right in front of everyone. That's when a person could start projecting their real power outside their body, the true source stuff, and turn it into a fighting aura. Leica said Zeke was the reason she could break through to this level. And now, he was toast. She came flying at him with a new move, and this time, our MC couldn't dodge all of it. The power was nuts. Zeke realized he was now facing a whole new style, the true Thunder Spirit Greatsword arts. He was actually grinning, loving every second, but also thinking, damn, this lightning stuff might be too much. Just 1 star made all this difference. Her style looked the same as before, but the moment she hit 2-star, it was like everything exploded with lightning energy. She was fast before, but now, she was insane, and that weird lightning wrapped around her. He said there was no way anyone could do that 1,000 years ago. Zeke didn't even want to counterattack, since he wasn't sure what this power could do to him. Still, our boy was grinning through the whole thing, which was driving her crazy. She started throwing even more lightning strikes, but he just kept standing. Yeah, he was getting hit, but he was still up. Langus kept yelling and telling him to surrender, and Leica said she'd stop if Zeke would just swear loyalty to her. Our MC said nah, not happening. So, she decided she'd go all out and finish this. She unleashed her Thunder Spirit, her first secret art move, Heavenly Thunder. Our boy ended up on the ground, looking pretty done, and everyone thought the fight was over. But nope. Our boy stood up again, still sparking with electricity. The blonde girl just stared, probably wondering what the hell it would take to keep him down. Zeke explained that he let her hit him on purpose to study her moves, and now he could actually use them, too. While he was getting shocked, he kept using his Dragon King's breathing, which mixed with her lightning energy. The next thing he knew, he had lightning inside him, and he could even control it a little. He had no idea how it worked, but he guessed her whole clan had special bodies that made this possible. He said it was the best lesson ever. He fused both their techniques together. And here's the crazy part. Because of this, he reached the 2-star level too. So, the fight was back on. Then, he felt all these new traits and powers kicking in, and he started to really get what true strength could be. She starts to hit again, but now, even Leica's lightning attacks weren't working on him anymore. He thought, when true source power is infused with lightning's properties, it stimulates muscles and nerves throughout the body, and strengthens it. Langus thought, how can it be now? He watched a battle between successors to the head, and he's just an aide, and even keeping up is all he can do. Then 2 of them kept going, but eventually, our MC decided it was time to end this. He created a brand new special form, Dragon Slaying Arts. Hearing that, Leica wondering why he can do another technique. Does that mean he was trained in secret combat arts? While she was lost in her own thoughts, he charged straight in and hit her with this new technique, taking her down in a flash. Bro, the fight was wild. The blonde girl just lay there, totally shocked that she lost, since she had to beat all her brothers to become the next head. Zeke, still smiling, told her he was legit impressed and said she should keep training, because this wasn't their last fight. Learning new things is pure joy, and the time was very well spent. He said they'd definitely have a rematch someday, and she was just left thinking he was unbeatable, and she was touched hearing his words. A few hours later, inside a place called The Fisher, Lord Balza was working on his own dragon combat arts moves. One of his guys came in and said his daughter just reached 2-star, which was insane at her age, and that she could be a level 4 or 5 by graduation. He didn't even care. He said to come back when she could actually use her talents for real. But then the guy dropped the real bomb. Leica got beat, and the one who beat her was Zeke, Balza's own son. Well, he wasn't super shocked. He said Zeke's mother was talented, but she'd already died by the time he was born. The weird part, though, was how our hero learned moves strong enough to beat a 2-star, since nobody taught him. When he found out his son reached 2-star all on his own, he ordered them to begin the first trial right away, even though most kids hadn't even hit 1 star yet. He said it was fair, because only the worthy would survive, and the rest had no future in Eldragon. He told them to call back Freya to run the trial, and keep a close eye on everything. Freya is the one who could defeat Leica on her own. She will oversee and conduct the trial. Now, the Lord admitted that Zeke has made this more interesting. Then, the morning after all that wild fighting, our hero showed up at training like nothing crazy had happened, but he started his own training by today's routine, by using weights. 2. Large rock 1. Medium rocks 2. And he did air, sitting with all of that. The lesson of the day was Ibuki Dragon's Breath, this fancy move from the 15th generation. The teachers acted like it was some big deal, but honestly, it was just a way to make your body stronger. So simple that even a little kid could get the hang of it. Langus, our nervous best bud, noticed Zeke wasn't even training. He asked what was up, and our boy just told him he already mastered it. Dude, he'd only learned it a few hours ago. He was stunned, thinking that maybe this training must be boring for someone who just trashed Lady Leica. Our MC, though, was on a whole different level. He had this Dragon Slayer combat technique and even a spatial form inside him from his last fight. He was starting to believe that maybe there was an ultimate version out there, one strong enough to slay an actual divine dragon. Bro, only our boy would wonder about stuff like that. Since he already crushed all the dragon combat arts, he just went back to working out like usual. But then his buddy asked him for some actual training help. He wanted to get stronger and thought Zeke was the only one who could teach him. Our hero didn't even think twice. He said, yes, because he actually respected him and thought he was worth teaching. And guess who else showed up? All fired up? Yep, Lady Leica herself. She wanted to train with our hero, too, because getting destroyed in that fight just made her want to get even stronger and shock her brother, and maybe even Zeke, while she was at it. She double-checked if Zeke really didn't mind training her now, instead of focusing on his own growth, but our MC said he was down to teach both of them. He did ask Leica if training with the guy who beat her would bother her, but she said she would do whatever it took to become stronger and win that family head spot. Zeke got curious and wanted to know why she was so obsessed with this whole leadership thing. Leica explained the super messed up family rule. If she didn't get the head spot, she'd be forced to marry. Best case, it would be one of her cousins. Worst case, a total stranger. Our boy got real ticked off at that. She told him that it's natural. The Eldragon bloodline was too valuable, especially for the 4 great houses. Their true source power is unique, so they'll use them however they please. He went angry, thinking it was insane to treat people like breeding stock. Honestly, can you blame him? Just then, an announcement blasted across the training ground. Someone said a new instructor had arrived, one who took time out of her super busy schedule just to teach them, so everyone better be thankful. The new teacher, Freya, walked in and immediately started checking out Leica. She saw right away that her moves and fighting aura were sharp and basically flawless. Don't ask what Langus does. He went afraid just as always, and he reflected to hug our boy, asked for protection. She greeted the students and spotted Zeke. He innocently asks who she is. And it turns out that Freya Wingkick was a big deal, a member of the Black Dragon Corps. She asked why he didn't look surprised to see her, but our boy just shrugged and said nothing really shocked him anymore. Freya complimented our boy by saying he seems to have quite an intriguing skill, then wondered maybe this was the head's been so concerned. Our boy started analyzing her. He even complimented her for her mad skills. Since he'd noticed you couldn't even hear her boots when she walked, her martial art is something, and it makes him interesting. After the introductions, the new instructor got right down to business. Another kid was shocked by the Black Dragon Corps. Someone who was really strong would be here, only to teach them. One of them asked if she really wanted to teach them, and she said of course. But after they passed her test, then she told everyone about her brutal test. They had to take these crystal orbs and survive for 1 month on Poisonous Dragon Mountain, a place crawling with deadly beasts and plants. She said if the orb broke or went missing, the student was instantly out, no second chances, and would be kicked out of the academy. She suggested everyone use their dragon breath skills to stay alive, as long as they kept the orb safe. As for the monsters, they needed to kill them if they wanted any food, because nobody was dropping off snacks. There was a little mercy though. They had 5 days before the test started. In that time, each student could pick and learn one of the Eldragon family's basic martial arts. Freya said picking the right fighting style could save their lives, but if anyone failed to learn one in those 5 days, well, that was their own problem. some tiny kid piped up, asking if she would help them if they were in danger. She just gave them the Eldragon classic. Only the strong survive, so if you lose, you die. Yikes. The whole group started freaking out. Even Zeke wondered if the family had always been this hardcore. Then she handed out weapon manuals. Langus was stuck, totally lost on what to pick, but Zeke told him to grab a spear, the same weapon he did well with before. For Leica, he suggested an axe, since it would cover her weak spots. Freya reminded everyone that their lives depended on this training, so they'd better go all in. She also dropped a bomb. During the trial, the upperclassmen would be trying to steal their orbs too, but she said the forest was so big, they might not even run into each other. Still, you could tell everyone was getting real nervous about it. Our boy just said anyone who couldn't handle it alone should make a team. But he'd be going solo as usual. Then, because he's actually a chill dude, he invited everyone to grab some food before training. Fast forward 5 days, and the trial was about to begin. The test group gathered at the edge of the scary forest. Our blue-haired boy was super anxious, whispering that the time had come, while Lika agreed with a nod. He started to doubt himself again, worried he didn't belong since he was just a regular guy, but his group showed up and said he was just as good as any of them. Then, Celine and Raymond came over and Selene said even she couldn't believe she was working with Lady Leica. The blonde girl just acted cool about it and reminded everyone that they were all chosen for their skills. The blue-haired boy gripped his rod tight and promised to give it everything, and Raymond said he'd do his best too. The blonde girl looked happy and told them she was counting on them, then turned to Zeke and asked if he was really good with going solo. He gave his usual confident nod. Still, he said that this would be amazing and makes him nervous too, while the others started getting even more nervous. Leica admitted she was kind of scared, but Zeke raised a brow and pointed out that everyone there was super talented, so their team would be fine. She double-checked, and he told her, and everyone else, that she was sharp, and their team's test would be a breeze. Then, Langus muttered that Zeke always seemed so confident, but before anyone could say more, Freya walked up and told everyone to get ready. She liked their group formation and said teamwork would help them survive. Then, she passed out the crystal orbs, telling everyone to protect theirs until the month was up. If an orb was lost, that was it, game over. She also said that these orbs are identical. It means if you lose one, you could just swipe another. And once they have settled in the mountain, upperclassmen will enter to steal their orbs. Another kid had mentioned that there are so many kids who haven't even reached one start. Some other dude just laughed and said, this test sounded like no big deal. Yeah, he was about to learn the hard way. Their convo just makes another student shock. And just like that, the craziest test yet was about to begin. Then the instructor told them to get moving, and everyone rushed toward Poisonous Dragon Mountain like it was a Black Friday sale. Lady Leica turned to our MC and said she'd catch up after the exam, then snapped at her team to follow. Zeke just gave her a chill little wave. Freya asked him why he is not going with them, but he just shot her a low-key smile and said he was fine before heading off. Of course he was. Have you met this kid? And his calmness just makes her realize that this kid is strange. As the sun went down and moonlight spread all over the place, the new instructor hung back with a couple of officers. One of them whispered that this test was too much for the newbies, and another agreed, saying these kids barely had any real battle skill yet, and probably wouldn't even last. She just shrugged, saying the monsters weren't that strong, and teamwork would save most of them anyway. The officer nodded. But then she quietly muttered about releasing something. The other guy looked shook and wanted her to explain, but she just brushed it off like he was hearing things. Then marched the next group into the jungle. She is just too excited about what the result is and how many students can survive. After they went to the jungle, that group spotted a solo student, and their archer immediately let an arrow fly. But guess what? Our boy Zeke just caught the arrow like it was nothing, looking all bored and said that he had been waiting for them. The upperclassmen stared at him, totally confused. But before they could even blink, our boy dashed forward, grinning, and basically inviting them to come at him for real. Elsewhere, the Leica squad was going full beast mode. Celine was smashing monsters left and right, and when one tried to sneak up, Raymond just smashed it with his shield. Langus got hyped and charged with his spear, skewering another monster clean through. The blonde girl was loving it, cheering them on. And when the others turned to look at her, dude, there was a whole pile of dead frog monsters just chilling at her feet. Her team was like, what the hell? Did she really solo all these? She just laughed and said, well, being 2-star helped a lot. She also pointed out that Celine and Raymond had both gained 1 star this week, which was pretty sick. Meanwhile, our blue-haired guy got quiet, feeling like he was lagging, but his friends hyped him up and told him his turn was coming. Even Leica agreed, saying him taking down that frog without a star was badass, and she admired his flawless spear work after all that Zeke training. Then she told everyone to hustle back to base before dark. But just as they were almost home, Leica called a halt. There was a senior up ahead, one of the upperclassmen, and the guy was smirking like a total jerk. She asked if he'd come to steal their orbs, and everyone tensed up. Raymond lifted his shield, ready for action. The senior admitted that, yeah, stealing orbs was the name of the game, but he hadn't expected to find their base so soon. The blonde girl just warned him to back off or get wrecked, saying he couldn't handle their whole crew alone. But then, 3 more seniors stepped out of the shadows. The lead guy whipped out his sword and tried to hit her, ordering her to give up. She dodged, and the fight was on. Raymond blocked attacks, Celine fought back, and Langus was barely holding his own, as one of the seniors threatened to take his crystal. Lady Leica yelled at them to hold them off until she was back. Now, this is where our blue-haired boy remembered some advice from our hero. He had once asked him how to deal with stronger enemies, and Zeke had been blunt. If you got jumped by 3 or more upperclassmen, you couldn't win by force. But there was a way. Exploit the tiniest opening. Langus wanted to know how, and Zeke told him to just endure, hang in there, and wait. Eventually, the enemy would slip up, because the weak couldn't force a gap, but they could always outlast. He had been worried if he could really survive that long, but our boy insisted that endurance was the real win, and that beating a strong foe with patience was cooler than just brute strength. He joked that only Leica might be the exception. He finished by telling him to believe in himself and not overthink it. Just wait for his moment. So now, he gritted his teeth, took the hits, and waited. And finally, when his opponent relaxed for just a split second, he went for it. Slam! His spear dropped the guy cold. And just like that, he finally got his first star. Meanwhile, Leica was still brawling with her own rival. But even though they were both 2-star, it was clear she'd leveled up, especially after all that Zeke training. Yeah, she had learned axe technique. She finished the fight with 1 clean hit, then ran to check on her squad. They were all good. Celine, shouting congratulations to Langus for finally hitting 1 star. He just stood there in shock, not believing he'd done it. The blonde girl smiled, saying that with everyone star-powered now, they could definitely survive this insane exam. She even wondered out loud what Zeke was up to. Cut to our MC, and bro, the scene was straight out of a horror movie. Some poor girl from the last group was running for her life, screaming about what kind of monster Zeke was. All around him, the upperclassmen were either down for the count or sprinting away like their pants were on fire. Our boy was just chilling, calling them cowards for running, when they were supposed to be the tough ones. He even gave that classic line, basically telling them they weren't locked in with him, he was locked in with them. The upperclassmen were bolting faster than Olympic sprinters, totally flipping the script. One guy slipped and ate dirt, and when he looked up, Zeke was just looming there, telling him to at least try to fight back. The dude looked into those golden eyes and basically had a whole midlife crisis, then just straight up fainted from fear. It was insane. Zeke, of course, was a little bored by how easy this all was. The big, tough upperclassmen were actually just a bunch of chumps. But then, he noticed someone spying on him. He called the peeper out, and when nobody showed, he figured it meant he wasn't breaking the rules, so he was free to do whatever he wanted. Turns out, the spy was actually an upper dragon captain, and this guy was absolutely floored watching a first-year destroy all his seniors and even call him out for hiding. The captain made up his mind to go report everything to his boss, because, clearly, this kid Zeke was on a whole different level. Anyway, now, he got back to his base. Freya, the one running the survival test, waiting for her report. Her squad lined up and started giving her all the stats. After just 1 week, 30% of the 7-year-old kids had already dropped out. Why? Yeah, that's a lot of kids tapping out. But the survivors were finally learning how to deal, which meant the numbers probably wouldn't drop much more. But when the boss lady asked about the upperclassmen, everyone suddenly went quiet. That was a red flag right there. One of her guys, the same dude who had been spying on all the action, finally told her the truth. He explained how all the upperclassmen were just running for their lives. The instructor looked like she just saw a ghost, because, seriously, what could possibly scare upperclassmen out here? There weren't even any monsters on the mountain stronger than those guys. So, she demanded to know, why the hell were they running? The guy only had one answer, Zeke. Our hero had become the boogeyman of this whole test, going after the upperclassmen like they were nothing. He was hunting them, one by one, and now nobody even wanted to be near him. Dude was cutting through the competition like bugs, and it was so unreal that everyone agreed they'd never seen anything like it before. Even the fact that he was the patriarch's son didn't explain it. This kid was a freak, not just a genius, but a straight-up monster for his age. Freya remembered their strange little chat and realized Zeke's plan had always been to run solo, so he could go wild without any restrictions. He wasn't worried about being hunted at all, he just wanted to be the hunter. While everyone was still gossiping about our boy, something else arrived. Something they had been waiting for. Freya told one of her crew to unload it right there. The rest of the squad started whispering, wondering just what kind of trouble she was about to cause now. Turns out, she was making the test even harder by planning to let loose a monster that was 3-star level. Even the toughest upperclassmen weren't going to survive that. But Freya, who honestly might be a little evil, explained it would only attack students with 2 stars or higher. So, the little guys didn't have to worry, but the strong ones were totally screwed. Her team wanted to know why she would even do this, and she let them know it was a direct order from Lord Eldragon himself. She was super curious to see what would happen, especially now that Zeke had turned into such a legendary monster. She wondered if this kid could actually handle something this crazy. Then, she ordered her crew to let the creature loose at dawn. And, bro, dawn came fast. Langus and Celine were hanging out, when suddenly, the ground started to shake like an earthquake. Lady Leica, with her savage instincts, felt that something way scarier than the upperclassman was getting close. Our blue-haired boy thought it might just be some big monster, but the blonde girl said this was something else, way worse. The rumbling got louder, and all the students started freaking out. She noticed that the tree behind them was about to fall, so she yelled for everyone to get out of the way. She managed to protect her team, so nobody got hurt, thank God. Everyone was still shaking from the tree crash, but Leica grabbed her sword, ready to face whatever was coming. Then they all saw it, a giant stone golem, looking like a nightmare made out of rock. No one thought they'd ever see something like that on this mountain. Meanwhile, our boy was chilling in a totally different part of the forest, sitting on a pile of monster bodies and knocked out upperclassmen. He was so bored it was kind of sad. Nothing could even touch him, and he acted like he was the Gojo Satoru of this whole test, untouchable. But then, out of nowhere, he felt a terrifying energy in the distance. This wasn't just some random beast. This was something stronger than any 2-star. And he started thinking, maybe the instructor was sending him a secret challenge. Still, it was weird for them to toss something this dangerous at a bunch of kids who barely had 2 stars. Normally, Freya would have warned them first, but our boy figured out that this crazy lady must have let it loose on purpose. He wondered what their plan really was, but honestly, he was just hyped to finally have a real fight. So, he hopped off his throne of bodies and set his sights on the 3-star monster. The only problem was, it was pretty far away, so he had to hurry if he wanted to join the fun. Back at the Golem showdown, Celine tried to slice the monster up with her sword, but, bro, the blade just bounced off like nothing. Not a scratch. Raymond thought he could be the hero and smashed it with his shield, but still, nothing. Then Lady Leica unleashed her lightning thunder flash technique, her ultimate move, and finally, managed to chip a tiny piece off the golem's body. That's when they realized only attacks filled with aura could hurt this thing. In other words, anyone weaker than Leica was useless here. Now, Langus started freaking out and begged for a plan. The blonde girl told them she'd distract the monster so everyone else could escape. Of course, nobody liked that idea, since it meant leaving her to face the golem alone. But she just called them all weak NPCs, saying they'd only get in her way. She pointed out that if her strongest attack barely scratched it, there was no way the rest of them could help with their friendship power routine. She had a point. Still, Raymond stepped forward, saying he'd back her up with his shield so she could land her hits. She thought he was a total maniac for suggesting that, but Langus and Celine stood with him, too, promising to cover her so she could do at least some damage. Looks like it was ride or die time for the crew, even if their odds were trash. So, now, things started off with Lady Leia all fired up. She finally listened to her friends. Yeah, the classic friendship stuff got to her, and she told them to cover her while she built up her next big attack. So, Leica started charging up, lightning buzzing all around, then blasted forward with some serious thunder energy. But the big rock monster, the golem, wasn't just gonna stand there and look pretty. It moved quick, way too quick, and tried to smash Leica into the ground. That should have been game over, bro. But Raymond jumped in, using his shield to block the monster's whole damn fist. It almost knocked him out cold just from the impact, so he had to step back and catch his breath while Celine and Langus took his place. They tried their best, hitting the golem over and over to keep it busy. This gave Leica the opening she needed. The girl went for a crazy aerial slash, using her Thunder Spirit Greatsword arts. She flew through the sky, leaving lightning everywhere, and landed her ultimate move right on the monster's head. The attack was so intense, it looked like there was nothing left of the golem. The squad started relaxing, thinking they finally won. Langus ran to help Leica, who looked totally wiped out but happy everyone was okay. She used all her energy for that move, so she was barely standing. But bro, nobody checked if the monster was actually dead. Big mistake. The golem came crawling out of the smoke, sneaky as hell, and reached right for the blonde girl. She got snatched up, and her friends just stood there, totally useless now. She realized she seriously screwed up, not making sure the thing was actually finished off. Celine freaked out, saying there was no way that monster could still move after taking a hit like that. Langus tried to play hero, charging at the golem with his spear, but the monster just grabbed him too. He was screaming, not gonna lie. Then, out of nowhere, a gigantic tree came flying through the air like a missile and smashed into the golem. Bro, the force was insane. The tree hit so hard it knocked her loose from the monster's grip. The blue-haired boy and the others grabbed her and started running for their lives, not even sure what just saved them. They had no idea, but the answer was about to walk in. That's when our MC, Zeke, rolled up to join the party. He looked like he didn't care about anything except having fun with his new opponent. Dude was practically smiling at the thought of beating up a 3-star monster. But here's something wild. Before Zeke even got there, he could see Leica's epic attack from far away. He realized her crew was trying to handle the monster, but honestly, they had no chance. In his old life, he would have just teleported straight over, but now, he had to actually run. He figured the whole thing was just a countdown until everyone got wrecked. So, what did he do? Our hero decided to try something new. He stuck his fingers in a tree, ripped the whole thing out of the ground, like it was nothing, and tossed it into the sky, aiming for the monster. Kid basically invented a tree launching move. He even called it a dragon nurturing arts trick, something from the Academy's basic manual that he found pretty useful. Turns out, launching trees at monsters is a legit long-range move now. After that, he sprinted the rest of the way, just in time to see his friends freaking out. Langus warned him about the golem, but Zeke just grinned, pumped to finally fight something strong. He noticed something weird though. The monster had no life force, even though it was clearly alive. While he was busy building a conversation, the golem tried to punch him right in the face. Everyone expected him to get flattened, but nope, our boy caught the fist with one hand like it was nothing. He already figured out that normal attacks wouldn't hurt this thing, but he didn't want to blow it up too quickly. Leica watched our boy play around with the monster that nearly crushed their whole team and probably felt a mix of respect and what the hell envy. The golem got pissed and tried to slam Zeke with both hands. He actually had to work a little to block that one, and, for once, he admitted it wasn't totally easy. Our boy told his friends they better leave if they didn't want to get wrecked too. So, the whole squad bailed, leaving him to go all out. Now that he could finally go full power, Zeke grabbed the giant golem. Seriously, the dude was 10 times his size, and just flung him across the clearing. But the stone beast was hard as hell on the outside, so our MC wondered if the inside was any softer. Time for a little science, bro. He powered up a punch, hit the golem with his Dragon Destroyer combat arts, and then followed it up with a second move to blow it up from the inside. The result? He totally wrecked the golem in one punch, ending the fight in style. Even he had to admit, that was a good time. Fast forward, 1 month after that insanity, the test was over, and the story switched over to the main Eldragon family estate. Zeke got called in to see the head honcho, and he was not happy about it. He remembered how the test ended. Nothing big happened after the golem fight, just the usual stuff. 70% of his classmates survived, but those who made it through became way tougher, even reaching 1-star level. Not long after, our boy was dragged to meet the patriarch, Lord Eldragon. Yep, his own dad. As he walked down the hall, he grumbled about how annoying everything was. Freya, the scary instructor, was walking with him, yelling at him to show some respect to the family head. She started ranting about how he basically broke the whole upperclassmen exam by hunting all of them down for no reason. Because of him, none of the upperclassmen could even finish their own trial. They all failed and had to retake it. She was losing her mind, begging him not to disrespect the patriarch. But our boy just didn't get what the big deal was. Zeke honestly thought he didn't do anything wrong. Classic poor guy, always in trouble for going too hard. Anyway, now, our MC and instructor Freya finally showed up at the huge door of the patriarch, aka Zeke's scary as hell dad. Freya kept going on with her warnings, telling our boy he seriously needed to tone it down and act humble, or else he could get erased from the world. She wasn't joking. Lord Eldragon, the family boss, did not play around and didn't care about kids at all. So, if our boy got reckless, he might not walk out of there. And she doesn't want that happening under her watch. That is when Zeke realized that this is dangerous. When they got to the door, Freya did her proper intro, said her rank, and explained why they were there. Only when the big boss gave the okay did they finally walk into his office. Our hero? He just stared at the man behind the desk like it was nothing special, even though it was his first time meeting the boss up close. Lord Eldragon didn't bother welcoming them or anything. The guy just jumped right into it and demanded to know why Zeke was running wild, beating up all those upperclassmen during the test. Zeke, being Zeke, acted like it was all normal. He straight up said he was annoyed and wanted to know if he even broke any rules by fighting those guys. The old man was thrown off for a second. The kid just kept going, saying the only rule he heard was to survive a month with the crystal orb intact, nothing about holding back or playing nice. So, in his mind, he just did what he was told. He even gave his dad some attitude, saying he should have explained the exam rules better in the first place. Man, you should have seen Freya's face. She looked like she was about to faint, since just a minute ago she begged Zeke not to argue with the boss. She even tried to get him to shut up, but Lord Eldragon started releasing this crazy powerful aura that was so intense it knocked her to the floor. She honestly thought Zeke was about to get murdered right there. But here's the insane part. Our boy didn't feel a thing. He just made fun of his father for using cheap tricks when he got annoyed. Bro, This kid had no fear. That really puzzled the Lord. He just could not get how a 7-year-old not only took down a ton of upperclassmen, but also destroyed a 3-star golem, and now was standing there completely chill under his pressure. Like, what the hell was this kid made of? Yeah, Zeke knew the Lord wanted to know the secret to his power, but he just called it his personal genius. It was basically a standoff, arrogant dad versus arrogant son, both staring each other down. Lord Eldragon finally said the boy's attitude was just as rude as he'd been warned, but none of that mattered, since he still managed to beat the golem. So, our boy actually earned a reward. He could pick either an item from the Dragon Treasury or get access to the second floor of the Dragon Hall. Freya was absolutely floored. She was like, how did this conversation go from nearly getting this kid ended to suddenly giving him a crazy reward? Anyway, both places, the Dragon Treasury and Dragon Hall, had stuff most people would never even see in their life. Some of it was legendary. Even forbidden books and insane weapons from 1,000 years ago. Only a handful of students ever got to step into those halls, and the second floor was supposed to be like hidden boss level. Of course, our boy had to push it. He trolled his dad, asking if it's a reward. Why not give him both? That pretty much did it. Lord Eldragon ordered him to leave, but our boy ignored him and started complaining that he still had questions. Freya was losing her mind at this point, grabbing the idiot to drag him out before he got himself killed for real. As they were leaving, the MC couldn't help himself. He tossed out one last insult, telling the Lord that trying to hide his emotions would only make him weaker, not stronger. That hit hard. The Patriarch saw something in Zeke at that moment, a kind of equal power, and just sat there, thinking about the crazy presence he just felt from this little brat. The instructor, meanwhile, just wanted him out of there before he made things worse. She yelled at him to just be quiet, then say, "Thank you to the Lord," and they leave. But yeah, Zeke's present made the Lord more curious about him. Next scene, Freya started ranting again, basically yelling at the MC for being such a disrespectful clown, even after she warned him a million times. Zeke promised that he tried to behave, but honestly, that was him holding back. Wild, right? She couldn't wrap her head around how the kid could treat teachers politely, but had zero respect for his own father. Looking at his strength and attitude, she called him an unordinary child, and wondered if he was even who he said he was. He just laughed it off and trolled her, saying he was just himself. Then, she thought about how everyone in the family had drunk ancient dragon's blood at birth, and that the family leader was supposed to have the might of a superior dragon. By nature, nobody should be able to stand up to his wrath. Yet Zeke just did it and didn't even break a sweat. She decided she would check his birth records later, just to be sure. But right then, she changed the subject and asked which reward he wanted. The kid did this adorable little face and tried to pick both again, which just drove her insane. Eventually, our boy decided what he really wanted. Since he was basically 1,000 years out of date, he wanted to learn. He was super curious about medicines and technology in the new era, so he picked knowledge. That meant access to the Dragon Hall. His #1 fan, Langus, was hyped that Zeke got in, and they both got excited about what they might find. The blue-haired boy already learned some cool spear techniques from Zeke, but this was a chance to grab even more powerful martial arts. Lady Laika joined in, saying they had to hurry up because there was a time limit. The first floor was pretty basic, and they could only borrow one book at a time, so everyone had to pick wisely. The squad was ready for their next big adventure. Then, she told him that she had just heard about our hero's crazy reward. He could choose between the Dragon Treasury or the Dragon Hall. She was honestly shocked when Zeke picked the library instead of grabbing some epic weapon. She figured he would have picked a sword or something wild, but nope. The poor guy just wanted to catch up on the world's knowledge, since he was pretty much a time traveler, with 1,000 years of stuff to learn. But Laika, of course, still thought there was nothing there that could beat her. Thunderclap great sword art. She was busy hyping herself up, while Zeke was already in full Brainiac mode, completely zoning out. Suddenly, a supervisor reminded everyone they only had 5 hours in the hall. No one really knew if that was a long time or not, but you could tell it wasn't going to be enough. The blonde girl, always the strategist, came up with a plan. She told the others to each pick one book to borrow, then use the rest of their time speed reading any book they couldn't actually take out. Fast readers were about to win big, but Langus just wanted to find a good martial arts book and focus on reading it for 3 hours. It was tough picking the perfect book, especially since the hall was legendary. The second they got inside, everyone freaked out. The place was even more amazing than our boys imagined. Books everywhere, the history of the entire Eldragon family just waiting to be read. Our boy's eyes lit up. He was determined to find something that would blow his mind. And bro, he did not waste a second. He went full crazy, flying through every magic and chaos book he could grab. The info was nuts. That's way too much new info. He thought, to think that in those 1,000 years, their world ended up connected to another one. He learned that, almost 1,000 years ago, a massive crack appeared between their world and another one, making a rift called the Konsei. Out of it came a chaos realm filled with monsters made of pure madness. To fight back, people started building primal energies inside themselves, and the Eldrigan family became humanity's main defenders against the chaos. 4 famous warriors, after epic battles, ended up marrying into the family, creating the Typhona, Fafnilde, Levius, and Bahamut factions, the 4 big Eldrigan bloodlines. Suddenly, everything clicked for our MC. No wonder the angry boar he fought was covered in dark energy. Even Leica's own thunder aura felt otherworldly. All of it was chaos, energy leaking from another dimension. But the real jaw-dropper was how much magic had changed. With the rift came new magic techniques. He wanted to find a book about these new spells, but even after digging like an insane bookworm, he couldn't find anything. Bro, he was so close to something epic, but it just wasn't there. He was kind of losing it, getting louder and louder with excitement, until the supervisor's voice cut through the air, telling him to chill out and keep quiet. The weirdest part? He didn't see anyone nearby, but he could still hear the guy. Was this the new magic? Some kind of talking spell? The poor guy was dying to know how it worked, but, aside from primal energy, he doesn't sense any special power. While he was still geeking out, all the books around him started floating in a glowing yellow trail. Zeke was losing his mind. Loving every second, he yelled and asked, "What the hell is this? Turning primal energy ether into threads to move objects?" Our boy couldn't help with all of this. The supervisor warned him again, but honestly, our MC could not keep it together. He was like a kid on too much sugar, too hyped for his own good. Suddenly, it all went crazy. The library itself started closing in, just like that. The poor guy got launched straight out the door. He barely managed to land on his feet, totally confused, and muttering about what the hell just happened. He demanded to know how to do that ether trick and begged the supervisor to show him again. Langus couldn't figure out why our boy was acting so wild, and the blonde girl was just lost, asking why only he had been thrown out like that. After that, he asked his friends if they found something satisfying. Then, Langus was pretty happy, he said, found a martial arts manual called Cloudwater, Spear Technique. Celine picked up a movement art and the Wind Blossom Sword Technique. Raymond had been working on the Eldragon Guardian sword stuff and even got a shield book. Here's the kicker. All these martial arts were actually created by Zeke in his last life, just for fun. Now they were epic classics, which was kind of hilarious. Then, our boy asked Leica about her haul, and she showed off a book called Heavywave Greatsword Technique, improved by the 15th Lord. She also mentioned that it is her family's inherited martial arts. That got our boy's attention, since this was the second time he'd heard about the 15th generation doing something crazy. Apparently, this 15th Lord also created the Dragon Slayer combat arts, which was basically Zeke's own move, but with some new twists. So, even though our MC had invented a bunch of legendary techniques, all the new versions were even cooler, thanks to this mysterious 15th Lord. He was actually impressed, and for once, he wasn't bored. Instead, he was hyped for the future and whatever came next. And then the story jumped 5 whole years. Now, the blonde girl was 12, wandering around looking for Zeke and their friends. She asked Langus where the MC had run off to, and he said Zeke and the other were at the training grounds. Turns out, our hero had gotten way stronger with age. At 12 years old, he was already facing off against 3 of his friends at once, looking ready to show the world what he could really do. Looks like the fun was just getting started. Anyway, now, there was this grand, empty hall, all fancy with sunlight, streaming through the windows. On a big desk, a quill just sat there, chilling next to a scroll. So, a special rift has appeared. Lord Balza was sitting in his chair, staring at Ain, who totally looked like a military boss. He asked him if he was sure about the rift, and Ain just hit him with a yes, all calm and confident. Then he explained that, according to their investigation, there was like an 80% chance that magic water was hiding in that rift. Yeah, you heard right, magic water. Apparently, if someone drank it, they could become a mage. This magic water gave people the ability to turn their true source power into straight-up magic power. That stuff could change the world if it got out. The Lord wondered why it showed up in an inconvenient place. But here's the thing. Wars had broken out over these magic springs. Everyone wanted them, because having more mages meant your house was basically a big shot in this world. Too bad for the poor Eldragon house, because they didn't have a single magic spring in their territory. The only way for them to get magic water? Go and conquer a special rift. Talk about a tough life. So far, only a few of their people, like Balza, managed to score some magic water, all by risking their necks in special rifts. Meanwhile, other houses just flexed on them, with way more mages. Ain and Lord Bala Eldra sat down at this giant, super fancy table, looking at some map. Ain said that the location of the rift, this time, was a pain in the ass, the abundant dragon forest. The dude explained that there had even been a border fight nearby, just the other day. Turns out, the forest was mostly in Eldragon territory, but part of it stretched into the next-door neighbor's land. That neighbor? Cerberus House. These guys called the forest, by a different name, the Abundant Hound Forest. They even had a scary three-headed wolf as their symbol. Then, Ain pointed out the rift was technically in Eldragon territory, but part of it extends into another house's domain. Lord Balza said that those Cerberus dudes had a good nose for trouble, so there was a big chance they'd show up to claim the rift too. He said they'd have to get ready for a fight over territory. He was not having it. He decided they should move before the neighbors got wind of it. He told him to alert all the dragon's nests and tell everyone a selection trial was about to go down. Ain just nodded, ready for action. Meanwhile, outside at the Dragon's Nest training grounds, things were honestly hilarious. Our boy Zeke was in the middle of a crazy training session with his friends. Lika stood outside, watching the chaos with her arms crossed, not even surprised anymore. Our boy was showing off, blocking all kinds of sword, spear, and shield attacks from his squad: Celine, Raymond, and Langus. Celine was flipping through the air with some fancy sword move. Raymond slammed his shield down, and Langus went for a wild spear thrust. Then, our boy stopped his spear with his bare hand, like, no big deal. Then he started giving everyone tips. He told him he was way too tense, and that ruined his spear style. Then he let Celine know she needed to balance speed and power, because she was just swinging fast with no real impact. Raymond? Zeke said the guy was alright, but needed to actually try attacking for once. Well, he didn't give them a break either. He cracked his knuckles and told everyone to get ready to go again. The rest of the crew raised their weapons, looking like they wouldn't quit until they dropped. Anyway, the blonde girl watched this, and basically said that our boy was insane for blocking those attacks without using his true source power. He was looking annoyed, as if he heard her calling him nuts. Then he yelled that this was training, and acted like his crazy methods were totally normal. Then, he said that their bodies had gotten strong, even without using true source power. Still, the blonde girl asked if he could at least tell them to stop attacking while she tried to talk to him. Zeke, being a show-off, called her over to watch what he could do without using magic. She wasn't impressed, and she thought it was weird that the kids kept attacking like it was nothing. Raymond just looked shocked and muttered about how their defense shouldn't even be possible for the human body. Then Selena said that this is far too mysterious for the human body. Suddenly, Leica shut him down right away, saying not to lump our boy in with normal humans. She even said that the older students called Zeke the monster prodigy of the East Wing. Our boy looked pretty annoyed about that nickname, thinking it was kind of rude. Then he finally got to the point. He asked the blonde girl if she came for something specific, or if he was just going to join the wild training session. She said that training was fine, but she had some news to share first. Turns out, Zeke and the others were going to meet kids from the other dragon's nests, and soon. This news freaked Langus out, and then Raymond explained that he figured it would happen eventually. Selene looked surprised and asked, "Is it for the next exam?" But even the blonde girl didn't know all the details. Our boy was suspicious, and asked where she got her info. She basically said, she got it from the instructor's conversation. It makes our boy realize that he never really paid attention to that stuff, but Leica teased him, saying it was embarrassing for a future head candidate. Then, she just told everyone to be careful, especially because there was another big shot candidate in the West Wing. Zeke, being way too confident, said he was looking forward to it. Alright, a few days later. The whole school, every student, all grades, was called out to the big courtyard. The mood? Super intense. Freya Wingkick, who looked like a tough instructor, stood on the platform and told everyone to zip it. Once the crowd was finally quiet, she dropped the bomb. In 3 days, they would all be fighting the kids from the other dragon's nests. Our MC, Zeke, looked like he was ready to start the next revolution, while Langus was just trying not to freak out. Then, she told the crowd that in 3 days, they'd be fighting the students from the other dragon nests. You should have seen the looks. 2 older guys in the back just stared at each other like, what the hell? One of them whispered that fighting people from other halls was supposed to only happen at graduation. So, he wanted to know why this was happening, out of nowhere. Freya stood outside that huge, castle-looking building, facing everyone with another male instructor by her side. She said there were a bunch of reasons for this fight, but she wasn't going to explain everything just yet. Still, she promised to tell them one key thing. Whoever survived this match would get a special mission. Now that got our boy Zeke excited. He was suddenly grinning like he'd just figured out the world's biggest secret. He asked if the mission was really so important that they had to fight for it. Then she explained that each of the 4 halls, East, West, South, and North, was going to send 7 fighters to the competition, and the rule was, winner stays on. She told everyone to pick their 7 fighters before the day was over. Those 7 will be chosen from top-year students. That's when one of the older, gray-haired students looked totally freaked out and asked, what can those little brats even do? A bunch of top-year students started talking trash. One of them said the little kids had no chance. Another bragged that only the older students could fight. And a third said all the lower years were basically weaklings. Freya just shrugged and told everyone to make their choices by the end of the day, acting like it was no big deal. That's when Rick, the tallest and spikiest of the senior crew, stormed forward and started barking orders. He shouted at the younger kids that the 7 fighters would obviously be picked from the top-year students. and he didn't want to hear any complaints. But suddenly, Leica stepped up. Our girl was pissed. She yelled that she totally objected, and then she burst out with this crazy golden aura, looking like she was about to explode. She told everyone that the younger years deserved a shot too, and she claimed she was just as qualified as any senior. Then Rick got all smug and tried to act like he was still in control, calling her Lady Leica and saying this was about strength, not bloodline. But she had no time for his nonsense. Her power flared up, her eyes glowed, and she challenged him to say if there were even 7 seniors stronger than her. The top year kids freaked out and started whispering about how she was supposed to be only a 2-star, but now she was showing off 3-star rank power. He started to sweat and basically had no comeback. Then, she told everyone that picking by strength made sense to her, so he wanted to know what happened next. Leica, still glowing with all that power, dared the seniors to prove there were really 7 of them who could beat her. Rick tried to make excuses, saying that she was just a special case, and none of the other brats could handle the top-year students. But our boy was done listening. He called him noisy, which just made him lose it even more. He stared at him down, asking the top years if they really thought the lower-year students were just trash. Then, with his eyes lighting up and his own crazy aura swirling around him, our boy suggested they fight until only 7 people were left standing. Then Leica yelled Zeke's name, and she looked like she was about to lose her mind. She told everyone that was way too violent and ridiculous, and said they should just hold some preliminaries for volunteers. Anyone from any year could try out for the big fight in 3 days. She jumped on that idea, looking pretty pleased. She asked the seniors if they had a problem with it, telling them that if they were really so strong, they had nothing to worry about. Rick grumbled, but he finally agreed, even though he made it clear he thought it would just waste his time. Then she was hyped and turned to Zeke, asking if he'd be joining the tryouts. Our boy said of course. But then he pointed at his squad, Langus, Raymond, and Selena, and told them they'd be joining too. The 3 of them looked like they just saw a ghost. The blue-haired guy freaked out, asking if they were really expected to fight the seniors, but Zeke just smirked and told them that, after all their training, now was the time to prove themselves. Selena looked like she was about to explode from the pressure, and Raymond was sweating, but he tried to act positive, saying they just had to do their best. Then the blonde girl called out to everyone else, asking if anybody else wanted to try out, but most of the other students looked scared and shook their heads, saying there was no way they could win against the top years, especially the ones with 3-star power. Now, our boy looked over at the nervous crowd with a little grin and told them that fighting people stronger than you was the best way to get stronger yourself. But nobody else seemed interested, so he joked about how unmotivated everyone was. Then, Leica finished it off by saying that, for now, they'd just have to see how tough these so-called top-year students really were. Anyway, now, Rick, the top-year dude with a big ego, stood in the courtyard holding his glowing sword, acting like he owned the place. He was already grumbling, thinking the younger kids were just wasting his time and had no shot at beating him. A couple of other students on the sideline even joked that maybe Rick should go easy on the kids, except for Leica, because apparently she was actually scary. Meanwhile, Langus, Selena, and Raymond stood in front of our MC, looking like they wanted to run away. The blue-haired boy was especially nervous, and you could see he was thinking about how insane it was to go against those famous 3rd-year, 3-star seniors. But our MC? He just started on one of his pep talks. He asked him what the problem was, and reminded his squad that they'd been training like maniacs with him for the past 5 years. He told them they'd done really well, and needed to trust themselves more. That actually worked. All of them got fired up, all shouting that they were ready. About time, guys. Meanwhile, Rick wasn't having any of it though. He started yelling for everyone to hurry up and stop talking, waving his glowing sword around like a maniac. He promised to teach them their place, and looked like he was about to explode. Up on the balcony, some random students watched all the chaos below and had no idea what was going on. One of them wondered if maybe the so-called top-year students weren't as tough as everyone thought. Ouch. Before anyone knew it, Langus, Selena, and Raymond were standing over a pile of defeated, top-year students, including Rick, who was flat on his back, totally KO'd. The blue-haired boy had his spear out, Selene had her sword, and Raymond was flexing with his shield. He tried to explain that maybe the seniors weren't weak, maybe it was just that their squad had gotten really strong. But the reality is, Langus has gotten much sharper at deflecting attacks and spotting openings. Selena handles the multi-strike windflower sword style very well now. Meanwhile, Raymond's tactics have improved a lot too. He switches cleanly between shield techniques and swordplay. Our boy realized that all of them have shown splendid results from their training. Don't forget Leica. She has grown stronger too. One of the seniors was staring up, stunned, saying this was impossible. Our MC was just grinning, giving his team a thumbs up, like he knew this would happen all along. He said to the seniors, who didn't believe they were defeated by 2 stars, that they were naive. He said, even after seeing this result, they still spout such nonsense. Then he explained that age indicators, number of stars, those are nothing. Strength in battle is simply determined by the victor. If you're weak, you lose. That was it. Rick tried to argue, yelling about how star rank was everything, and calling our boy a brat who didn't understand anything. But Zeke didn't care. He just gave him that cold stare with his golden eyes and told him, if you break the heart, anyone can fall. He said you had to face the real meaning of strength, which was just being able to win. But that guy was still angry, asking who the hell Zeke thought he was. He said he was planning to go easy since his group were just kids, but now he was going all out and wouldn't forgive them if they cried about it later. Real tough guy talk, bro. But our boy looked so done with all the talking. He said he was tired of arguing, and that kids should be using their muscles, not their mouths. He challenged him to show what he had, since it was down to just the two of them. Zeke put out his hand, letting his golden energy spark, ready for a real fight. The senior guy just clicked his tongue and rushed in, yelling for Zeke not to underestimate him. He charged up his punch with some big, great strength fist technique, which sounded pretty cool, but honestly, he was way too slow. Because our boy just landed a perfect punch right to his face. One hit, and Rick went flying. The dude crashed to the ground and didn't get up. Brutal. Our hero just stood there, smiling, giving a thumbs up, and said that Rick actually trained well. That's cold, bro, but also hilarious. Meanwhile, Laika and the others watched from the balcony, a little speechless. She joked that Zeke was saying nice things to Rick, even after knocking him out so fast. But while all this was happening, over in the West Wing's training grounds, things were getting just as wild. Bunch of students were lying all over the floor, knocked out and groaning. One guy had blood on his knuckles, and you knew it was a rough fight. Sitting on top of one of the defeated students was this guy, Vanille Fafnirld Eldragon. Yeah, the fancy candidate for the next head. He was just chilling, spinning his ornate dagger, and calling everyone around him useless. He said their selection was finished, which basically meant he beat everyone already. Then, Vanille's aide, Alan, called him Lord Vanille, and pointed out this little 12-year-old, Retin, who apparently was already a 3-star. He actually liked that, and told him he'd take him as a subordinate if he was useful. Rotten bowed as if Vanille was some kind of god, thinking that, as long as he was around, the West Wing would never lose. He was all fired up, dreaming that if Vanille became head, he'd get to be his direct right-hand man. The kid was almost shaking from excitement. Then, his aide whispered some news to him, that Lady Laika was going to join the East Wing's team. He looked extra annoyed, messing with his hair, and calling her a meddlesome brat who was always in his way. But even then, he said it didn't matter. No matter how talented Laika was, his side would win this thing. Then, he finished by thinking that he and his squad were going to clear the special mission, win the whole competition, and, when it was all over, he'd prove to his brothers that the seat of the next head would belong to him. Yeah, you heard it. This dude was not messing around.